Hello, welcome to episode 127 of Your Ultimate Comeback. I'm Brad with my co-host Raquel.
Yes,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm back in studio with you.
Back in studio. Volleyball season is officially over for both of us.
Yep. We can take a breath. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Good.
Was your trip good?
It was good. I'm not moving to Alabama, however.
Yeah, I'm not moving to Reno.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best thing I heard about Reno was someone said, Reno is so close to hell you can see the sparks. I believe that after being there for the third time.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Like, okay.
Well, super excited. We have a great guest today.
Yes.
We're going to explore some fun stuff that I think is going to be very critical for our listeners to hear.
Yes.
And some great points to walk away with.
Mm-hmm.
So let me introduce her real quick. Kristin Oja is a doctor of nursing practice, family nurse practitioner, and Institute of Functional Medicine certified practitioner. She's the founder and CEO of Stat Wellness, the country's first practice to combine functional medicine and movement under one roof, which she started as a backyard bootcamp in 2014 and has since grown into a multi-location operation across Tennessee, South Carolina, and soon to be Georgia. Kristin was named an EY Winning Women of the Year 2024, the Southeast Award winner. She hosts the Little By podcast and is known for treating muscle mass, grip strength, and HRV as vital signs of traditional medicine overlooks. Her philosophy, little by little, a little becomes a lot, guides how she helps patients uncover the root causes of chronic disease and build long-term health. Kristin, super excited to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I wish I was in person with you guys.
I know, it'd be so much fun.
We do too.
It seemed like so much fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Raquel keeps the energy good around here. And I may apologize for some of the things that may come out of her mouth during this episode.
What do you mean?
You got a way of dropping some things every once in a while.
Oh, my goodness.
I hope you do.
Okay, thank you.
Even Caesar laughed because he knows.
Yeah. I just keep it real, Kristin.
Yes,
That's all.
does.
That's all.
Yes, she does.
That's what it's all about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you're busy. How's the new opening of the new, is it the Charlotte that's opening really soon? Is that the one that you've been working on?
So Charlotte's under construction.
Nice.
Yes. So that is going to be our 7th location.
Wow.
And we got a few more in the pipeline. So we should be at 10 by the end of the year.
Holy cow, good for you.
That's awesome.
So you also do
it's
like
a
this
lot.
whole business coaching thing and like this entrepreneurial side of your business. That's pretty incredible. But I want to jump in and talk. Well, first off, I'm really fascinated by Stat Wellness and what you've built. And so let's start with that. Like, how did that come about? What really is Stat Wellness? What does it provide? All those good things.
Yeah. And I always like to say a long story made short because, if anybody's listening or maybe you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't happen overnight. But I was born an entrepreneur. I'm very curious. I'm always asking why. I sit here and I have a vision board. I write everything down I think about. So it's just embedded in who I am. So when you hear this story, just know I'm crazy. And I'm, entrepreneurs are very unique people. But
Yes.
I started my career as a personal trainer, and it's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I just wanted to see people get stronger. I wanted to be their cheerleader, their motivator, their supporter. And then my parents are like, Kristin, get a degree, like just a degree. We don't care what it is. And so, I went to nursing because I thought I could always fall back on it. And I actually hated it. My first rotation was in the dialysis unit and it was fluorescent lights and people were getting their blood filtered for 4 hours because their kidneys didn't work. And, I'm this happy-go-lucky cheerleader and they're just hiding under blankets and they don't want to talk to me. And the more and more I did these rotations, the more I realized how good we were at sick care. And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that we have some of the best cardiologists and oncologists and hematologists and pulmonologists. And we have a lot of advancements in the United States with sick care. And so I always like to preface that I'm very fortunate. If I ever need it, it's here. But where I feel like I found such a gap is in true health care. Like someone that just doesn't feel optimal or maybe doesn't feel right. Like, how do I become the best version of myself? Or how do I truly screen before I'm sick? How do I know what I'm predisposed to? How do I know risk factors? There was so much that was lacking in the preventative space. And so, long story short, I took my personal training background, I took my nursing background and said, I want to combine these. So I got my master's, my doctorate. I went through IFM training, A4M training. I just kept learning and learning how the body worked as one, starting to realize that we can't treat our systems in silo. Our body works as one system. And so we need to address it as one system. And so I knew I wanted to do what's called functional medicine, which is root cause medicine. But what I found in that space is I would see my patients every 3 to 6 months, and I wouldn't see them in between those appointments. And what I wanted to do was be able to see my patients on a regular basis. I wanted to create an environment where I could see them working out. I could see them meet with the health coach, meet with the dietitian, to do blood work, and to lift weight under one roof. And so that's what I created back in 2019. And our first location was in Atlanta, Georgia. And at the time, getting a little bit into the business side, every bank told me no. Every investor told me no. There was no proof of concept. And I was like, well, here's functional medicine practices that are doing it. And here's boutique fitnesses that are doing it. But nobody combined it under one roof. So like any entrepreneur, you just believe in your own idea, even if nobody else does. And so when a door closes, as someone once told me, you open a window.
I love that.
And that's what I did. So I didn't pay myself for 3 years. I worked from 3 a.m. to 11 p.m. I taught 15 fitness classes a week. I called my husband every new patient that booked that believed in us. And, we just grinded it out. And we refer to that as infancy in our business. Like you were physically exhausted, but you controlled everything, right? Like it really wasn't mentally that challenging. It was more physically challenging. And then, we went into adolescence or toddler and then childhood, and then now we're in adolescence. So we just kept scaling, and now we have 70 employees. We have over 10,000 patients. We're going to be at 10 locations by the end of the year if everything goes according to plan. And it's all rooted in approachable pricing, a one-stop wellness shop, helping people feel better than they ever thought possible, and, partnering with you. It's not a dictatorship, it's a partnership.
Oh, I love that.
We need that here.
Yes, we do. You want to come to the West Coast?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. We opened in Nashville, and this I'm so small, but they have a 1 hour time change. That 1 hour time change through all of our systems for a curveball, because you pick up the phone and we work as a team. You have to start asking, are you Central Time? Which, it's just, so we're gonna perfect our time zones a little bit before we come to the West Coast, but we will.
Yeah.
Okay, well, keep us in the loop when you do.
Sarah's going to be really close to her.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I have a client that's moving out that way. I actually have a bunch of people in Nashville. So you guys still have the Nashville facility?
So Nashville's our most pretty location. It's 2 stories, a whole floor of movement, a whole floor of medicine.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to say this isn't going to release by the time, but we're doing our 1 year birthday party. So we have our 1 year birthday party coming up.
Oh, that's awesome. Which part of Nashville is it?
We're in an area called Berry Hill. So we're right next to 12 South.
Yeah. Okay.
12 South is what a lot of people know. It's just right, maybe 5-minute drive from 12 South.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Well, good to know.
We'll make her the guinea pig.
Yes. I like that.
Knowing her,
I need a place to work out. Where do I go? I'm like,
she's going to love this. This is so up her alley.
100%. Yeah, because she's into the whole gamut. Yeah. So let's start with this. I like how you kind of talked about normal, right? Like our health realm being, everything's based around normal, but people still feel off. So like most of our listeners, they'll get an annual physical and they walk out being told everything looks normal and assume they're fine. But what does normal actually mean on a standard lab panel, and why is that often a problem?
This is like one of my favorite things to talk about because, well, number one, when you go in for your standard physical, they're checking very basic labs. So they're going to make sure your kidneys are working, your liver is working, your thyroid is working, your cholesterol is okay. You guys have gone in and done a physical. It's very basic. It might look like a lot, but it really is just barely scratching the surface. But what we talk a lot about, in addition to running deeper labs, even through LabCorp with insurance, we think we should do much larger panels to understand our health. So we can talk about what labs we check. But in addition to that, when you get a lab value back and you see what's called a reference range, it's just that. It's a reference range. It's not an optimal range. And so how they developed reference ranges is they put everybody's labs or whatever sample they were looking at on a bell curve. And they said this 2% is abnormal and this 2% is abnormal. So the rest of the 96% is what's considered a reference range. But what is the problem in that, right? Is our sample size healthy? Are they optimal?
Right.
No, they're American, right? So it's true.
Yes.
It's true.
Valid.
So I want to give you a very concrete example. So there's a level called a C-reactive protein. This is like dirt cheap to check through LabCorp with insurance, and it's a marker of inflammation. When I first started practicing functional medicine back in 2014, the reference range was 0 to 5. So if you were between 0 to 5, you were considered normal, right? Well, now fast forward, because we keep getting more and more inflamed in the United States, the reference range has moved to 0 to 10 is normal. We are normalizing inflammation, right? So put them on the bell curve, the 2%, the 2%. So as we become more inflamed, we start to normalize that. In our world, C-reactive protein should never be above 1 unless you're sick and fighting infection. So, that's just an example of how these reference ranges change based on our market and our health as Americans. And, if you're a standard American, you're going to get standard American diseases, right?
Right.
Heart disease, high cholesterol, diabetes, all of those, Alzheimer's.
Yeah. So I've noticed you do talk a lot about the CRP. You also talk a lot about insulin, DHEA, cortisol patterns. Walk us through what these are actually measuring and what they tell you about someone's long-term health trajectory that a standard cholesterol, for example, panel never would.
Oh, yeah. So there's a few labs I think every single person should know. And CRP is a really important one because you don't feel low-grade inflammation, right? Like a lot of us are walking around with low-grade inflammation and we feel okay. So make sure you've checked that. Insulin is one that I talk about a lot too, because this is the hormone that regulates our blood sugar. It's produced by our pancreas and it pushes glucose into our cells to be used for energy. And a lot of times we check an A1C, which is a 3-month average of blood sugar, and we don't address blood sugar issues until someone is pre-diabetic or diabetic. And so we want to catch it really early when you're starting to become insulin resistant. And so what's crazy about reference ranges, insulin, you could be between 1 and 24.9. That is a wide range of insulin. We really want you to be below 5, really. I really want you between like 3 to 7 max. So if you're coming back at 14, your insulin is normal, but that's insulin resistance. We need to catch that before you become diabetic. It's so much easier to reverse it. And this is beyond even disease prevention. It's how you feel, your ability to lose weight, what we call metabolic flexibility. If you make dietary changes, are you able to see the results? If you're insulin resistant, it's much harder to. Also, energy and performance, recovery, brain health, Alzheimer's prevention, right? We refer to Alzheimer's in our world as a type 3 diabetes. It's a blood sugar dysregulation. So, we want to check inflammation and insulin on everybody. The other markers you pointed out that I love to check and talk about is cortisol and DHEA. And these hormones are what's called adrenal hormones. And so a lot of people don't even know about adrenal glands, but they sit on top of our kidneys. And we have 2 of them, and we refer to them as little top hats. But they're how we manage stress. And this is probably one of the most controversial things between functional medicine and conventional medicine. So in conventional medicine, there's 2 adrenal conditions. You either have Cushing's disease, where you are just pumping out so much cortisol all day long. It's super abnormal. You start to get the buffalo hump. You start to get stretch marks. You start to moon, these like really, really high cortisol levels. Or you have what's called Addison's, where you're not making any cortisol. Those are the extremes. They don't believe that there's anything in between. And in functional medicine, we look at, okay, well, what is the circadian rhythm? How do we make cortisol and DHEA and what's optimal? And so cortisol, it rises in the morning. It's what gets us out of bed. It's what gets us ready to take on the day. It gets us motivated. It helps our heartbeat. It helps our blood pressure. It helps us feel threats. So cortisol is a critical hormone. We can't survive without it. And it's our stress hormone. But it rises in the morning and it goes down as the day goes on. And it should be nice and low by bedtime. So many of us in the US are off on this curve. We're either too low in the morning and we're hitting snooze a bunch and we can't wake up, and then we're reaching for a coffee pot so that the coffee is helping to get our cortisol up, or we're too high at night, so we're tired and wired. We feel exhausted, but we can't fall asleep. And so we believe in this gray area with cortisol, that stress hormone, and we really like to help people become more stress resilient. Because what I always talk about is if we can reduce your inflammation, and if we can balance your blood sugar, and if we can help you manage stress, and then my last thing, which is not a lab value, but maintain muscle mass, so many of the conditions that we have in the United States would not exist.
Interesting. And now, talk a little to me about DHEA. I understand this as it's kind of the mother hormone of all anabolic hormones, right? Or are they the androgens? Mm-hmm. Is that true? Mm-hmm. But most people
I would go even a little bit higher.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I'd go even a little bit higher with DHEA and go pregnenolone as like that real master hormone, but we can keep talking about DHEA because I love that hormone too.
Well, I just noticed a lot of my clients go to the doctor now and they're getting put on the testosterone pellets or testosterone injections, but no one's looking at DHEA. And people will start to take these. They don't notice a lot of change. Is DHEA playing into that?
Mm-hmm. So yes, I mean, the question to us, if you're low in testosterone and need testosterone replacement therapy, whether you're a male or a female, is why are we low? And so you have to go upstream if you want to understand the root cause. And DHEA is the precursor of testosterone and estrogen. I think it's important to know both. But DHEA is the hormone that balances cortisol. So if we have years and years, or for some people even months, we don't know, everybody's different in their stress resilience. But if we have high cortisol for an extended period of time, it's going to suppress our DHEA. So we'll see a lot of times in our patients' labs, high cortisol and low DHEA. And downstream, that's going to cause low testosterone, low estrogen. So when we think about like a hormone cascade, it's so important that you balance your blood sugar and balance your adrenal glands before you move into the sex hormones, or you may not feel optimal.
Yeah.
Some people short-term do. Sometimes when they start getting testosterone, they feel so much better, but normally that feeling doesn't last if the root is an adrenal issue and low DHEA.
Okay. Yeah, I've always kind of seen, and we talk about this a lot, like stress is this just big metabolic demon that no one really talks about. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 1000%. I mean, it makes it harder to build muscle mass when we're stressed out. We don't recover as well. We don't get as good of sleep. Then we start to lose our androgen hormones for muscle. I mean, it's stress. I think we way underestimate the impact of stress on Americans' health.
Yeah. What I usually hear is, "Oh, I'm not stressed." Like, what? How can you say that in this world, this day and age?
I know.
Let's talk a little bit about females. So a lot of our listeners are middle-aged, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they always complain about feeling off. Like they're tired, they're gaining weight, they haven't changed anything, their sleep's disrupted, and they get told it's just aging. What do you usually see in these women's labs that really traditionally gets dismissed as not an issue, but it's really probably an issue?
Gosh, isn't that so frustrating to feel off and just say it's aging? I hate that. It gets me fired up. But there is hormone shifts that naturally happen as women and men age, but specifically women. So, if you think about the female body, I lay in bed. I always joke like at least 2 to 3 times a week, I lay in bed and think about how the female body works and how our hormones and our longevity, our youthfulness is all based on reproductive age and having kids. Right. And then once we're not of reproductive age, it's like we're designed to start aging at a faster rate. But with modern science, we don't have to, right? But our brain talks to our ovaries and it communicates to help us make estrogen and progesterone with the female menstrual cycle. And that's what helps us to ovulate and thicken our uterine lining to create an environment to have babies. When that brain communication starts to get off with perimenopause, which is happening younger and younger and younger, we're having longer perimenopausal women and we're getting into more hormone disruption earlier, we start to overmake that FSH and LH because we're trying to tell those ovaries, like, I'm sensing a hormone dip. Make more hormones, make more hormones. And the ovaries for a little bit are like, oh, gotcha. I'm going to make more. So they start pumping out more estrogen. So we see a lot of estrogen dominance in this kind of early perimenopausal female. And so they start to become more emotional. They start to gain weight. They start to feel off. They start to have histamine responses, more headaches, more sleep issues. Not that alcohol is good, but they can't even have a glass of wine without getting flushed. They're like, I don't know what to do anymore. And so what we'll do is we'll run a whole hormone panel, of course, because we love labs and we love data. So we're going to look at their blood sugar. We're going to look at their adrenals. We're going to look at their FSH, LH, so how their brain's talking to their ovaries. We're going to run an estradiol, an estrone, a progesterone, and a testosterone. And what is so important for all the female listeners out there, if you're still menstruating, you need to work with someone that's hormone literate because you need to check it at a specific time of your cycle. So many times women come into me and they're like, they checked my hormones and they said everything was fine. And I was like, well, what day of your cycle were you on? And they're like, I don't know. They didn't tell me that it mattered. Well, what time of day did you get your labs drawn? I think it was 2:00 when my appointment. They said it didn't matter. It does. It all matters. Where you are in your cycle matters, and you need to do hormone testing first thing in the morning within an hour or two of waking because hormones decline with food. They decline as the day goes on. So just make sure you're working with someone that can coach you through that. But what we'll see in this kind of like perimenopausal female, we'll have them come in what's called mid-luteal, so about a week before their cycle starts, and we see a lot of estrogen dominance and progesterone depletion. And they'll start to notice their cycles are getting heavier, they're getting closer together, they're gaining weight. We start to see higher cortisol because they're not sleeping as well. So everything that you mentioned, like they just feel off with the same exact lifestyle, it's a hormone issue. And the question in that is, okay, is there some other hormone upstream that might have influenced this? Or is this just normal perimenopause and we can still adjust? Knowledge is power. And we know a lot about the female body now and what can help optimize us through life transitions. But a lot of times it doesn't happen overnight. A lot of times it's like borderline blood sugar issues, maybe not managing stress as well, then starting to get into perimenopause, not having a good, strong foundation. Like we do in-bodies and measure muscle mass on all of our patients. And we want to be at least 100% of the muscle mass we need just to support our skeletal integrity to just walk and get up off the ground, right? Some of our women come in and they're at like 80% of the muscle mass they need. Oh. That's going to impact your hormones drastically. So lift weight. Females lift weight. I think that's really important. But we'll check all the hormones. We'll communicate with them. But what we'll usually see is high cortisol. We'll start to see some borderline insulin resistance. We start to see estrogen dominance, and we see low progesterone. And then they get in this loop where each of the hormone imbalances influence the other hormone imbalance. And they're like, how do I get out of this? And that's where we come in.
I love that. I love that. I just want to stay. I know you guys are on the East Coast. But I found on your website, check your stats or something like that. So I jumped on, I did all your lab. I wanted to see everything you guys did before we got on this call. So I did their whole lab panel. When they say they dive deep, they dive super deep.
Love it.
And it was really cool because I got my results back. And then I also got a recommendation on supplements to help with my blood chemistry. And then from there, I could have jumped on and scheduled the call, but I knew I was going to be talking with you a little bit. But so even if you're not on the West Coast, there are still options where people can jump in and do a deep dive on. And as you talked about pricing, I was like, wow, this was not bad at all for the information that I got. Yeah. It was incredible. And I just paid cash for it. But when they say they do a deep dive on hormones, it was an impressive deep dive. I was very impressed by the labs that you guys ran. And that was just from that one option of know your stats. And the recommendations that came over were pretty cool. So I just wanted to share that. Like, there's options out there, not just for East Coast people. But do you guys do like coaching outside of the East Coast as well on labs and stuff like that? Okay, that's what I thought.
We do. Yeah. So if you go on our website at statwellness.com and you look at locations, we have a virtual option, and that shows you all the states that we're licensed in to provide full medical support. But a lot of like the lab testing, health coaching, dietitians, we can work with you across the nation. So we work as a consultant on people's health. But if you need like hormone replacement therapy or peptides or, thyroid medications, we have to be licensed in your state. But yes, we have patients all over. And then we also have patients that travel in. So I have a handful of patients from California that come in to see me once a year so that we can keep prescribing.
Yeah. Oh, very nice.
Are you licensed to do that in California? What you were saying? Oh, no?
No, they have to come.
Okay.
So if we're in a state that we're not licensed, you have to come once a year.
I see. Got it.
Because we're legally allowed to prescribe for 1 year, and then we have to see you again in person.
Okay. But there is still the option for like health coaching and things like that. Like there's still strategies involved.
Do we get to talk about your labs, Brad?
Well, I honestly muffed it up a little bit.
Oh, you did?
I got my labs back and I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like all these markers were blown out of the water that have never been off.
Yikes.
And so I started digging deeper into it. And so I have this, one of my clients plays in the NFL, and his rule, he's half my age, his rule is that I have to train with him. And at 50, that's a little rough. So I had done like 6 workouts over 10 days with him before I got my labs done. So the training so I'm like, because I was like, this would be really fun to talk about. And then I saw that. I'm like, well, this is pointless because I just.
But actually, it's not. I think the opposite of that, because you can show people.
That's good, something good to address. Is that I didn't even think about it when I did it. I just wanted to get them done.
Right.
What's the optimal time to get your labs done if you're someone who trains? Because I noticed that training can really throw lab markers off like they did on mine. Mm-hmm. So can you give us a little explanation on that?
It depends on how hard someone trains, but normally we like, if they train really, really hard, at least 24 hours, if not 48 hours from those intense workouts. Yeah. Just because, let's say you trained really hard the day before and do labs, the natural muscle breakdown that happens and the slight dehydration that happens, the stress on the body. Because, remember, stress is good. So exercise puts stress on the body. It's good stress, but it puts stress on the body. So we definitely don't want to work out the day of the lab. So no matter what, even if you're like
You mean previous to? Previous to doing the labs. You mean you could do it after?
Yes.
You could do it
exactly.
after. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We just want to do first thing in the morning fasted. We don't want any black coffee. We don't want any tea. We just want water. So we can see like your good levels. for the average person, that's great. If you are somebody that does 1 rep, 3 rep maxes, you lift really heavy, you go really hard, you may need 24, 48 hours gap in between your workouts and your labs, just so we don't see the cortisol, the dehydration, the muscle breakdown, some of those other things that can happen. But then I would also say, how often are you going that hard? And do we have any wearable data to make sure we're recovering well? So that we don't get injured.
I'll be very honest with you. I had not trained a lot before I got back into town. It was like the first 2 weeks of training. I was sore as hell. It looked like my kidneys had died.
Oh, man.
It was not good. I know I was not recovering well because I was training with him and then seeing, a lot of clients every day. It was a very rough period of time to go get my labs done. I should not have done it, but when I got him back, I was like, I'm dying. Like, what the hell's wrong with me? They were so blown out.
Right.
See, now you just need to hydrate, take like a good 24, 48 hours off and do them again and compare.
Yeah. I'm going to do that because tomorrow is our last day of training for a few weeks. So I'll have a little downtime. I'll get a true run done.
Yeah.
Awesome though.
Yeah, it was because they're markers that I've never seen be off before but I was just trying to get everything in. And I was like, I'm dying. It scared me, like I'm dying. But then as every single marker that was off, there's a correlation to they can be off from training too aggressively, too close.
Exercise.
Yeah, so it was. I muffed that one up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I like this. You talk a lot about muscle. So I want to talk about 2 things with you. I want to talk about GLPs and muscle, and then I want to talk about your recommendations around how training should happen, especially for women.
Yes.
Because you kind of brought something in. If a woman's muscle mass is not high enough, that can be affecting their hormones. I don't think people think about that. I know I've never thought about that. But that as soon as you said it, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think number one, muscle it's your metabolic bank. So the more muscle you have on your body, the better blood sugar you have, just period. So if our blood sugar is, slightly borderline, what a more positive conversation to think about, how do I eat more nutritious food? How do I build muscle versus okay, I have to just eat less. You know, I think this language has been around for a while when we start having blood sugar issues, cut carbs out completely, eat less, exercise more. And, it goes to cardio and running and power walking, all these things. And I think the truth is building muscle is your greatest metabolic bank. It's your greatest longevity tool. And so I talk about muscle mass all the time. And where do you want to go first? The female with strength training or the GLP-1s and muscle mass? Or
let's go female with strength training first. The importance of that, the benefit of that, just so our listeners can really get a grasp on how important that really is.
Yeah. So my goal for females, if time is not an issue, and then I'll talk about real life for me, because I always like to be really honest with 3 kids, 5 and under, and 70 plus employees.
Wow.
And I still see patients. So I'll talk about real life for me, and then I'll talk about what if time is not an issue. Yeah. So I think everybody needs to work out 3 days a week, full body, really good strength training. But sometimes people can't devote 3 1-hour days, right? And so for me, what I do is I do what I call my 12-minute workout of the day, and I work a specific muscle group. So I go upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. So I may spend 12 minutes and only do squats because I only have 12 minutes, right? I know that's not ideal, but just listeners, if you're short on time or if you're like me, you can get muscle gains with a very short, intensive, knowing what you're doing workout. So don't be like me when I first started STAT. I literally owned a gym and I got so busy, as I was mentioning, working from 3 a.m. to 11 p.m. And I'm staring at my equipment, and a workout at the time, it wasn't a workout if I didn't have an hour. And I don't know if you guys have ever been in that state of mind, but it's if I don't have an hour, why even work out? Why even do it? And then before I knew it, weeks went by and I did nothing. And I'm like, wait, hold on. What would I tell if I were the patient sitting in front of me? You're in a busy season. What can you commit to? Okay, you can commit to 12 minutes a day. Now, how do we keep your muscle gains? And I want to be able to squat my body weight, and I want to be able to do a pull-up. And so that right now, I'm not in a season of my peak performance, but I can squat my body weight and I can do a pull-up, and I do 12 minutes a day consistently. So listeners, remember, consistency is key. But if you are not in a crazy phase of life, 3 days a week, total body strength training is usually enough. And strength training is super important, but the piece that helps with building muscle is nutrition. So one of the things we used to think is you need protein immediately after a workout, right? Like people would work out and then they'd go get their protein shake. And a lot of the science, and there's of course different opinions on this, but what I've seen in most of the research I've read is it's really the 24 hours, how much protein you get in the 24 hours. So make sure if you're strength training that you're eating enough protein. And that's what's going to help you while you're sleeping, have your muscles recover, help with hypertrophy, making sure we're not getting injured. But I think where a lot of women I find get off, people are being like hit over the head with protein.
Yes.
Almost like I have not seen a patient not get enough protein in a really long time.
Oh, really?
But what I have seen in the female that's having a hard time building muscle is that they actually eat no carbohydrates. So whether you feel better on a low carb diet, I'll tell people if you do 3 days a week, you've got, a good hour, you're doing a total body strength training. We'll talk about what that means in progressive overload. But make sure in 24 hours you're getting enough protein, but make sure within an hour of working out that you're getting a carbohydrate because that's what's going to push the glycogen back in your muscles and help with building muscle. So some of our females, they're afraid of carbs. So they're hitting only protein, very little carbohydrates, and then they're not building muscle. And carbs for female help with progesterone production as well. So female that is strength training, I'm like 3 days a week, total body strength training, good protein, which at the very least is, you're a gram per pound of ideal weight. So, if your ideal weight is 140 pounds, maybe you're a little above that right now, but you need to be eating 140 grams if you're trying to build muscle as kind of a minimum. But most of our females, again, creatine and protein, they're all coming in on it. And so then after the hour after your workout, getting a good source of carbohydrate to go with that protein to help with replenishing your muscles so that you can actually build them. So don't be afraid of healthy carbs, bananas, apples, berries, sweet potatoes, lentils, beans, right? Like don't be afraid of healthy carbs, female listeners, because it is helpful with muscle building. So that's really important. And then also the fact is a lot of women, unless they're in the space of strength training, they have no idea what strength training is. They think, holding a set of weights and doing 16 reps and doing it 4 times through is going to build muscle. And that's a lot more muscle endurance, which has benefits, but it's really going to be hard to get into a state of hypertrophy, of building muscle. And so I do think the ranges can vary. For me, I find my sweet spot is 5 to 6 reps. And I really go at like 80, 90%. And progressive overload means you're increasing your weights. So if you're listening and you've been working out with the same weight for the last year, that is not progressive overload. You need to either change your exercise, change your weights, lift heavier. Most females, and I don't know if this is true for all men, but most females can at least lift 5 pounds more than they think they can. So when I see someone working out, lift 5 more pounds and you can do it. So push yourself. But I think that's kind of my general rules for muscle building in women. And, unless you're doing a ton of like hormone pellets, which I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but women naturally are not going to build muscle the same way as men, no matter how much you lift. Now, if you keep your testosterone in the 300, 400s with pellets, you may build a lot more muscle mass. But the general female is not. So don't be afraid to lift weight.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And I love that you brought up the importance of carbohydrates for putting muscle on.
Yeah.
Like that is critical.
It's critical.
And I want to correlate because one thing you said is that if you don't eat enough carbohydrates for women, it affects progesterone. And just earlier in the conversation, you were talking about perimenopause being an estrogen dominance issue with low progesterone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're in that stage and you're training and you're not eating carbs and you already have these hormonal fluctuations going on, things are just going to get worse, right?
Yes. And I do think you can get away with carbs and like veggies. You can do like big green salads and things like that. But the days you lift heavy or you're really trying to strength train, you really need a good classic carb. Yeah. So, some of my patients, they'll only eat like a good classic carb 3 times a week on the days they strength train. And I'll take that because that will help them. So there is a good in between.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Okay. Let's talk a little about the GLPs, the Ozempic, Mounjaro, Zepbound. It's huge, and a lot of our listeners are on them, and I think a lot of people around the United States are on them. But what's the conversation people aren't having about these drugs and what they do to the muscle and bone, and what should someone on them be doing about it? Like what? I think they're very effective. I am actually a fan of them when they're used appropriately, but I see a lot of people use them in ways where you can visually see the muscle mass loss happening. And you're a very big proponent around not losing muscle mass, maintaining muscle mass, the importance of it. So do you have any advice for people on the GLPs and strategies they can use to get the benefit from them without the negative side effects?
Mm-hmm. So number one, have some tool to track muscle mass. So many people have come into me on GLP-1s and they had no idea where their muscle mass was to start with. I think it's really important, even if it's not perfect, like having a scale at home that's not looking at weight, but looking at all of your metrics so you can measure body fat percent, muscle mass. Because if you are doing a GLP-1 and you're losing 50% muscle and 50% fat, so like let's say you lose 10 pounds and 5 pounds is muscle and 5 pounds is fat, you're shortening your life. You're not lengthening it, right? Muscle is our greatest longevity bank. It's our metabolic bank. It's our asset. So we're so particular about it. And we prescribe GLP-1s too. And I can go over the science and where the research is because I think they are very fascinating and interesting. And they do start to feel like this kind of magic bullet. I'm like, okay, we're now preventing Alzheimer's and cardiovascular health and helping with metabolic resistance and autoimmune disease. And, the list keeps going on that we're finding in research. But if somebody is prescribing it and not talking to you about your diet, not talking to you about how you're strength training, I would be very cautious and don't just go onto an online platform and just buy them. Because to me, a few things are really important. Number one, GLP-1s are the cherry on top. They're a tool, right? I don't want my patients losing more than 1 to 2 pounds a week. So if you're on a GLP-1 dose and you're like, I love it, I feel so sick, I'm not eating at all, and I've lost 10 pounds this week, you need to stop, right? Because if we lose more than 1 to 2 pounds a week, it's not sustainable. And you may know somebody that was on a GLP-1 for a while and then got off it for whatever reason they had to, and then they blew up, right? We see this. Thankfully, the way we prescribe it, we're so cautious we don't, but people do. So you don't want to lose more than 1 to 2 pounds a week, and you want to measure your muscle mass and make sure that you're not losing muscle mass. Now, let's say somebody really does have over the course, we've had people over the course of a year lose 60 pounds. They really needed to lose some weight. You may have a 10 to 20% muscle loss just because they've been carrying around this weighted vest of 60 pounds for a while, right? But you don't want more. I really prefer no more than a 10% muscle loss. So you lose 10 pounds, only 1 pound was muscle. And because we're so picky about this, we actually have patients gain muscle on GLP-1s. So I think there is this misconception that you cannot put muscle on with GLP-1s or GLP-1s. I've had so many people come in and say they only help you because they make you not want to eat. And I'm like, oh no, I have some patients eating more on GLP-1s. I have patients training better, putting muscle mass on. GLP-1, glucagon-like peptides on a cellular level are changing your chemistry. It's not just suppressing your appetite. You can get that with phenermine, right? And we didn't see the same result. So, I really don't like when people say they only work by making you not eat. Please eat. You need breakfast, lunch, dinner. You need to prioritize protein. And we require, whether they actually do it or not, at least when I sit down with them, that they're strength training at least 3 days a week. I require that they don't stop eating a meal. They need breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We require what we call our body compositions. We use the InBody. We require them every 3 months. We don't necessarily stop it, but if we start seeing muscle loss, we're going to be talking to you about it. We're going to be adding in creatine or amino acids. We're going to have you keep a food log. Because to me, we're doing a massive disservice if we're only focusing on weight loss with GLP-1s and we're losing muscle mass.
Yeah. You mentioned at-home measuring tools. Is there any at-home scale that does the biometrics that you really like?
Mm-hmm. So InBody actually has one at home that you can use, which is the device we use, and it will have an app and it will sync it. And I think it's really great. It's pricey. There's cheaper ones, but I think it's going to be a little bit more accurate than some of the competitors on the market.
Okay, cool. Very cool. I want to talk. So you're obviously a believer in wearables. You've kind of brought them up a few times. What are the ones you really like to see? What if someone's can't get out to Atlanta to see you guys or out to the East Coast to see you guys, but they want to start using some wearables at home? What would be some of your recommendations on important wearables for people? Yes.
I'll answer your question, but I always like to add a caveat on here. If you have health anxiety, I don't suggest wearables.
Thank you.
I just want to be clear. I have some patients that, they should never have a wearable on their body ever. So if a wearable is creating stress for you, remove it and just don't worry about it.
It does
if
not.
You're like me,
He's thinking of me right now. I am not that way, Brad.
Go back and listen to some of our episodes.
No, in the past, perhaps. I don't.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Throwing me under the bus. You know what? You said that about the Hume scale. I got the Hume scale. Yeah. He got it. And he said, you shouldn't get it. You shouldn't get it. I got it, and it's made me less stressed out doing it.
Okay, good. That's good.
Truthfully.
Good.
Because I'm seeing it all the time. I'm like, oh, okay, dip, lift. Okay, that's interesting. Really?
Well, data can take you one of two ways. It can either like give you some good knowledge that you take and use, or it can create massive stress and like perfectionistic tendencies. So like, for example, some of our patients, they've stopped like going to concerts and having fun on Friday night with their friends because they know their sleep quality is going to be down. And I'm like, yes, but also fun and laughter. You know, do we want to stay up till 1 o'clock every night? No.
Yeah.
But you know, and maybe we leave the concert a little bit earlier to get better sleep, but we can't live in a space of perfection that we've lost all fun, connection, and human interaction. So just remember, to me, I live in a state of balance. One of my employees joked that I'm very type B. So maybe that's where I come from with this. So maybe not everybody can relate to me on this. But as far as what wearables I like. So from a sleep perspective, I think the Oura Ring is still one of the leaders when it comes to sleep. And I do think sleep is a critical indicator to measure, especially deep sleep. So deep sleep is where our body recovers, and it's where we store memories. So a lot of people think they're sleeping well, but they're not getting any of the deep sleep. And I can't tell you how many times we've diagnosed sleep apnea in people that don't match the classic sleep apnea, like the snoring, the dry mouth, the like waking up gasping, right? Like we just have some people that never get deep sleep, and they have great sleep hygiene. They look fit, and they have sleep apnea. And that is, I love when that happens, because that's going to totally change the trajectory of their health, right? By getting better sleep. So I love tracking sleep. I love tracking deep sleep. I really want deep sleep around 18 to 23%, which I have found in my clients is incredibly hard to hit.
Yeah.
Raquel, we have some patients that come in at 5%.
Real quick.
I am. Let's see.
Yeah. What are you at?
Let's see. From last night. Deep. Where are you? Deep sleep. 15%. What did you want?
18. Okay. You're not too far off.
Okay. Usually it's a little better. Let's look at the day before. 15, 19.
That's great.
12, 14. Ooh, 8. That's not pretty. Yeah.
So what we always look at is those days where it's like 8%. What were some of the variables there, right? So one of the biggest things we see that drive this is back to the cortisol. So what's interesting is part of the reason we need cortisol low at night is because we make melatonin in response to two things: darkness and low cortisol. So if we have slightly high cortisol, or if we're not in a dark room, or we're on technology, we're getting blue light, that's going to impact our melatonin production. And melatonin naturally helps us get into a deeper sleep, right? It helps our body heal, recover, our organs to slow down, to be able to do the things that we need it to do. So many times it's a slight cortisol melatonin imbalance that will impact deep sleep. That's what I see the most. Some females, they have horrible deep sleep in their luteal phase, and they have great deep sleep in their follicular phase. That goes back to the progesterone connection. So I would say, there's a lot of reasons it can happen. Alcohol, any amount of alcohol is going to throw off deep sleep. Half a glass of wine, your deep sleep probably is going to be lower. So we see a little bit of alcohol, we see technology, we see stress, fluctuations in the time you go to sleep. I know this seems a bit kind of extreme, but if you go to bed at 10 o'clock and then you go to bed at midnight, and then you go to bed at 11 o'clock, and then you go to bed at 1 o'clock, the hormone curve, that kind of circadian rhythm, it's not as efficient. So again, we want to have this in balance. We want to have fun and connection. But when you're at home, do you have a good sleep routine? Do you have a good wake routine? It's going to help you with the quality of the sleep. And I always describe this as do you guys have kids, either of you?
Both.
Oh, yeah. We both do.
Okay. Because I always talk about babies. Just when you're a baby or you're raising babies, you try to do the same bedtime routine so that their body knows that they're in a crib for the night and not taking a nap. And I'm we need to treat us all like big babies. We need to turn that white noise on, make it, swaddle us up, do the exact same thing, the same facial routine, not have electronics on. We really want that baby to sleep through the night. And our brains are really wired to recognize, okay, it's time to go to bed. I need to make melatonin. And so yeah, the sleep I think is huge. I like the Oura Ring for that. I track the deep sleep. The other indicator that I think is really decent on most wearables, the Apple Watch, the Oura Ring, and the Whoop Band are probably the three we see the most in our clientele. The Apple Watch, a lot of people don't realize in your health app, it's actually measuring your heart rate variability. And people have no idea it's doing that because you can't see it on the watch. You have to actually go to the health app. But the next indicator I love outside of sleep is HRV. So HRV, I think, is one of the most underutilized tools when it comes to evaluating your nervous system. So HRV is heart rate variability. It's what is the difference between each of our heartbeats. And a healthier heart has more variability. So we want a higher HRV. So we want to be able to go for a sprint, stop exercising, and our heart rate to calm down quickly, right? We want it to respond. We want to handle a stressful conversation, have our heart rate go up, but then take a deep breath and have it come down right away. We want to be able to get into a meditative state and lower our heart rate, right? You need that variation within your nervous system, your sympathetic, fight or flight, and your parasympathetic, rest and digest. A lot of us either hang out in one of those two areas too often. So either we're like so sedentary, we never exercise, we never push ourselves, we never increase our heart rate, or we're like a stress ball that like never lowers our heart rate, right? So HRV, if you wear any wearables, even if you didn't know, go to your health app, look at heart rate variability. In science, there's really not a perfect for HRV that I found. So if any of your listeners or you guys have found studies of like where we're at with HRV, we know certain things. HRV declines with age. We know in general, men have a higher HRV than women. But we like to see our HRVs generally at 50 or above. But I always put that caveat, like establish a baseline for you and track it. So if you're starting at 20 and you're like, holy smokes, Kristin wants me above 50 and my HRV is at 20. But let's say you start to implement some good breath work, you start to do some meditation, you're doing some zone 2 exercise, maybe you finish some of your strength days with some little finishers, and you go from 20 to 35 over time, like that's better, right? So we want to celebrate your trends because data's not, we don't know. But above 50 is technically where we like our patients.
Okay, I like that. Last question for you. Your whole philosophy is little by little, a little becomes a lot. I actually really like that. Mm-hmm. If someone listening today wanted to start their own health comeback, what's the very first little thing you tell them to do starting tomorrow morning?
Ooh, it's so individualized. I'm like, let me think, because it is my favorite quote, and I do believe in consistency. I actually think that instead of like one tip, I think it's the mindset. I would really, if you're listening and you're really wanting to get back, I would encourage you to have the belief that little changes will make a difference. So I would take a healthy mindset to make a change and be consistent with that change over time. So I think all of our lifestyle changes and our little by little tips would be different. Like for some people, you may be drinking no water and you need to start your day with good hydration. For like some people, they're so stressed out. I'm like, hey, let's put down the coffee cup. That's another stressor, right? For some people, they're just lacking social interaction. And I'm like, you know what? Forget all the wellness. You're doing fantastic there. You need to start going on dates. Like you need to have fun, right? Yeah. So like, I think like those little by little tips would be so different. But I think we need to change our mindset, and we need to believe that these lifestyle foundations are going to make a difference over time. We need to believe that a 2-minute walk after lunch is going to make a difference in our blood sugar over time, because it does, and we have the science to prove it. So I would just encourage the listeners, if you're ready to get back on your health journey, look at your life right now. Look at your lifestyle. Which wellness pillar do you feel like you're having the least success with? What is one thing you can start doing in that? And believe that that small change is going to make a difference in your health over time. And I do this all the time. Like I'm constantly evaluating. And what I found with myself and my patients is there's always one of these pillars that's not doing as well. It's so hard to have them all in balance, right? You're either exercising really well, but you're not getting good sleep because you're waking up at 5 a.m. to do it. Or you're exercising pretty well, you're sleeping really well, but then you have no social connection because you're trying to do it all, right? It's so hard to have them all in balance. But what I talk about is the intention to balance it is what matters. That taking the time to evaluate your life, making those small tweaks, that's what's going to matter in the end.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Can you tell our listeners where they could find more on you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're on Instagram, our business is at Stat Wellness. My page is at Kristin Oja, DMP. Kristin with an I. We talked about that earlier.
Yes.
So feel free to follow me or connect. Our website is statwellness.com and my website is kristinoja.com. So you can check us out on both of those. And if you're interested in finding out how we could work with you or just doing a free 15 with one of our team members, you can always text our office or call at 404-254-5905 or book an appointment on the website. What I found is because our model is so unique and we offer so much, sometimes just doing that free 15 just is like, you're a fit or you're not. This is how we can work with you or not. So there's no pressure on those, but that's always an option too.
Yeah. And again, I was a big fan of I always like to verify. When someone talks about, we do deep dives on lab work, I really I can verify.
See, yeah.
It was really good. I was very impressed by it.
We check a lot more than that. That's just like I'm not a patient. I'm just pulling up and doing some labs.
Yeah,
so
I figured
if you're
that when I
impressed by
saw
that,
that.
if you did, if you did a one-on-one, you'd go, whoa.
I'm impressed by. I'm not a patient. It was just like, here's a little taste, and the little taste was pretty complete. So, but functional medicine has always been my favorite. That's always been the most effective for me and my family. Thank you for sharing with us, some good strategies, some good insight to labs and fitness and wearables and all the stuff. So we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you guys so much. This was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, I wish I was there with you in person, but
Same.
when I come to California, I'm going to reach out.
Yes,
please
and then
do.
we'll have you on again.
Yeah, and we'll have you in-house.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Thank
we'll
you.
both do our blood work, and I will do it in a better fashion.
When you're not completely.
I was a little embarrassed. I'm like, I don't want to show these online.
That's so funny. Well,
Awesome.
Cool.
thank you,
That
Kristin.
was super fast.
I
but
know.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care.